So good afternoon, everyone. Good. You're all giving yourself a round of applause here, and I appreciate that. You know, when Maddie said we think we're going to move the soup supper to noon, my first thought was, well, do you think people would come at noon? I have no idea how many people are here, but I think it's more than I've ever seen here before. What is it? 320. Woo. So that's an official Maddie number. We got it. I would like to start out on a fairly serious note, if I might. I would ask for you all to join me in a moment of silence today for all the people who have died and are dying wrongfully and unnecessarily due to Trump's decisions and irresponsible actions. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. We have 8 great Democratic candidates for state office with us today, and you're going to hear from them in a little bit. But first I want to use the Emcee privilege here to recognize our great Story County Democratic officials. Okay? Denny, is sound coming through okay? Okay, good. I have had the pleasure of working every day for the last 8 years with several incredible Story County officials, and I would like to ask them just to stand and wave when I call their name. Lucy Martin, our auditor. Paul Fitzgerald, our sheriff. You still here, Paul? Yeah. Great. Ted Rasmussen, treasurer. Tim Mills, county attorney and speaker timer today. And Latifah Faisal, Story County supervisor. She's there. And I would also like to recognize Lisa Heddens, who's not able to be with us here today. And there are some other folks, Selden Spencer, Soil and Water Commissioner. John Clow, Grant Township Clerk. John. And former office holders, Ralph Rosenberg. Mary Ann Campbell, and Supervisor Jane Halliburton. There are some other people I will also ask to be recognized in just a moment, but first I want to say one thing. Back to the county. As you probably know, Story County now has supervisor districts. Well, it was somebody's idea, what can we say? But rather than all 3 supervisors running at large, supervisor candidates will be elected by the voters of the district in which they live. Latifah has announced she is running for the new Supervisor District 3. And I am happy to be with you all today to formally announce that I will be running for the new Supervisor District 1. Which is why I wore my campaign hat today. We're sorry to see Lisa leaving the board. It's been a pleasure serving with her, and we'll miss her expertise and her good work on so many issues. But Latifah and I are looking forward to a new Democratic supervisor joining us next January. For those of you who will be in the new District 2 or just have some interest in that, we're going to have a meeting at the Nevada Library next Saturday, March 7th from 1 to 3 p.m. to seek a candidate for Supervisor District 2. Okay. And the map and more information is on the Story Dems website. There's a tab that says Supervisor District. So rather than me take all the time now, I say go to look at that. Okay? Now, legislators, I did not forget you. Okay? How could I? How could I? We have with us today, we have Senator Herman Kornbach. Representative Beth Wessel-Cashel in the back. And Representative Ross Wilburn. And I want to give a special thanks to our legislators who are here today for focusing on the issues rather than on the noise. We appreciate you. We appreciate you more than you can know. We also have some candidates here for the legislature. Teresa Perrin, District 51, which is Eastern Story and Western Marshall. Cindy Passion, District 55, North Story and other points north. And we have Ben Olson and Daniel Wojcik for District 48, and that district is South Ames, the Kate Mitchell School area, Washington Township, and Slater. They're still collecting signatures, and I would say, if you haven't had time, on your way out, if you haven't had time to sign in petitions for nomination, they're still going to be out there, okay? And now,
District 51.
District 51, right there, Teresa. Okay, good. Now we're going to hear from our candidates for state office. And first we have Julie Stauch for governor.
Julie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Stauch, candidate for governor. And I'm running because Iowa has a lot of problems to solve, and I have a lot of experience solving problems for many different clients. Thanks to Governor Kim Reynolds, we're in a hot mess, and we need somebody who's expert at coming in and cleaning up messes, and that's me. So I want to let you know how I've been approaching this whole thing, because while I've been in Story County twice, there were not this many people there. So this is fabulous, and great work by your team organizing all of this. So last summer when I started in June, I announced that I'm Julie Stauch, I've applied for the job of governor, and I'm here for my job interview with all of you, because you are the next employers of Iowa's governor. And yes, thank you. and so when I went out and asked open-ended questions of Iowans all over the state, including here in Story County, to get an understanding of what people's concerns were and what the common threads were of those concerns. And if you look on these cards that I've forced upon so many of you here today, on the side, number one concern in those meetings during the summer, clean water. Number two, public schools, get rid of those blank vouchers. Number three, access to health care, but it's very complicated. But the three big ones under the health care issues were cancer rates, OBGYN deserts across the state where women can't get any health care without driving for hours or going out of state, and then our nursing home care. And so all of these, when people ask me, what's your platform? The people have spoken, and this is my platform, and this is what I'm running on as governor. As your governor, I will go in and fight, starting day one, for clean water in this state. Also, day one, starting on our public schools. And I've got a time limit, so I just want to keep talking, you know? And so then the last one on the access to health care, I hope to be able to give you a list of what I'll do day one. It's a little bit tricky right now because of the complexity of our healthcare system getting more complex every single day. So it makes it really hard to sort that out, but I'm working on it. As far as day one on clean water, appoint to the DNR someone who is both an environmentalist and has an ag background. Both. They're out there all over the state. We can get that person. Number two would be to put those water monitors back in right away. We've got to do that. Number three would be to, number three under it is related to, and I just had a blank moment, so I'm not even going to try to fake it here. I'm just going to keep going. Public schools, put in a department director who actually, novel concept here, has a degree in education with some public school experience. Because right now, we have a lobbyist who worked for Betsy DeVos, who is our education director. So put a freeze on the vouchers day one, and also, by the freeze on the vouchers, I mean a freeze on their access on enrollment, okay? Because we can't freeze the other part because it's got legislative, so we've got to do some legislative work on it. But freeze the enrollment so that it can't get greater, and then go to work on probably what will take 3 years to get rid of the whole voucher program. And then one other thing that came up in a certain slice of the state is ending the eminent domain abuses because of the pipelines. So if you go from southwest Iowa to northeast Iowa and north, that's where they are hot under the collar about eminent domain abuses, and they are right. They are right. It is wrong to use eminent domain to give to private companies. And then they also had that bill last year, I don't think it passed, to make the farmers or the landowners pay for any explosions or any sort of problem. So bad, bad, bad. So I'm also willing to work on that too. Last thing I'll say is if you have a question for me, since we can't do an interview session today, although it would be a fun adventure, if you go to the backside where all my contact information is, there's a Julie at foralliowans.com. Please feel free to email me and ask your question. I'm happy to answer, and I tend to respond within a couple days of when I receive it, depending on what the volume is. I expect a higher volume after today, but that's okay, it's a good problem. I want to thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here and to speak with you. I would truly value your support. And at the end, if you haven't already signed the petition, Heaven is going to be going around getting petition signatures, and so I hope you'll please do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have Ryan Peterman for Secretary of State. Ryan?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out today. This is an incredible turnout and super encouraging to see. For those of you who haven't met, my name is Ryan Peterman. I am a proud Iowan from the Quad Cities, and I'm running to be our next Secretary of State. So I grew up in Bettendorf, and growing up, the whole community around me, my family, my friends, neighbors, teachers, coaches, one thing they all always emphasized was the importance of public service of some kind, whether that was serving your community, your country, but just the importance of serving some cause that's bigger than yourself. And in high school, I took that to heart and decided I wanted to join the Navy. So I was lucky enough to get into the Naval Academy out of high school, went out to Annapolis, went on to become a Navy pilot. I spent a few years flying helicopters out in San Diego, which was an incredible opportunity. I had the chance to deploy with the Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group and led a division of about 30 young, incredible sailors from all over the country, from all walks of life. And I learned a lot about good leadership in the process. And to me, good leadership, it's not about being the guy or gal that's shouting the loudest or seeking recognition. It's really about showing up. It's about putting in the work. It's about leading your team, directing them, giving them the resources they need to accomplish the mission. And I think we're lacking that kind of leadership when you look at Des Moines right now. We could use a whole lot more of it. But I got back from my deployment, and I learned about this program that the Department of Defense runs called the Legislative Fellowship. So I went out to DC, spent a year working in national security and defense policy, loved everything I did there. I saw firsthand in the US Senate the potential for good that government can do when we have dedicated public servants in office, folks that know that, again, they're there to serve, not their own self-interest, but the interests of the people. And that's something else we could use a whole lot more of right now. Then I had the opportunity to go back to the Naval Academy. I was the honor education officer, so I taught midshipmen about the importance of honor and integrity in their careers as Navy and Marine Corps officers. And I think it probably goes without saying, but honor and integrity, those are two things we absolutely need a whole lot more of in Des Moines and in DC right now. And that took me to just about 10 and a half years in the Navy. I loved everything I did, served with incredible people, had a lot of wonderful opportunities, but I miss being home in Bettendorf and Davenport. My dad has some health issues, so I decided to get out of the Navy and move back a couple of years ago to be close to family and help take care of my dad. And when I moved back to the Quad Cities, I realized a couple of things. One thing I realized was that I missed that sense of purpose and service I felt when I was in the Navy. And the second thing I realized was that Iowa had changed so much since I left for Annapolis in 2009. It didn't feel like the same place. And I knew I needed to do something about it, so I started volunteering on campaigns. I knocked a ton of doors for Christina Bohannon last cycle, knocked a ton of doors for some of our special elections last year, and then decided if I wanted to keep making a difference, keep serving, I should run myself. You know, and I were facing so many issues right now, whether you look at our economy, the state of our healthcare, our water quality, public education. And I think solving any and all of these issues starts with electing better people to public office, people that, again, know they're there to serve. But on top of all of this, it's been getting harder and harder to vote in the last decade or so here in Iowa. So that's what drove me to run for Secretary of State. The fact that right now we have a Secretary of State who's focused on making it harder for all of us to make our voice heard rather than standing up for the right to vote. I think that's wrong, and it needs to change. We have, you know, in the past decade, we've shortened the time period we have to vote. We've seen ridiculous challenges to eligible voter citizenship at the polling place. And just in the past few weeks here, we've seen crazy attacks on the right to vote coming out of both Des Moines and DC. When you look at what happened in the state legislature this past week, when you look at what's going on with the SAVE Act in DC. In light of all of this, I don't think it's ever been as important to have a Secretary of State who knows their number one job is to protect the right to vote for everyone here in Iowa with that right. And I promise you that's exactly what I'll do as Secretary of State. But I am going to need your help getting there. This has been an awesome experience in the statewide campaign. I'm doing everything I can to get the word out, but I do want to ask, when you get back home, if you could talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your neighbors, tell them my name. Again, it's Ryan Peterman. I'm running for Secretary of State. You can send them to my website, peterman4iowa.com. I ask that you and your friends and family sign up to volunteer. You can check out our schedule of upcoming events. I'm trying to get out all over the state, talking to folks everywhere about the importance of protecting the right to vote. And you can also pitch in a few bucks on my website too. It's going to take a little bit of money to get the word out to everybody, so even if it's $1 or $2, every bit goes a long way towards helping us take back the Secretary of State's office this November. So thank you all again so much for coming out. It's been awesome talking to so many of you, and I look forward to seeing you all a lot between now and November. Thanks.
Next, we have Chris Jones for Secretary of Agriculture.
Well, thanks, folks, for coming today. Yes, my name's Chris Jones. I'm running for Secretary of Agriculture. I'm retired from the University of Iowa, where I manage the network of water quality sensors that we hear so much about these days. And I want my candidacy to be viewed as a referendum on the condition of Iowa's water. Last summer, Kim Reynolds said that the state spent $700 million on water quality since she was governor. Does the water look $700 million better to you? It doesn't to me. In 2013, we put the Secretary of Agriculture in charge of water quality in Iowa. I think those two things connect. Here's what we're facing today. We have farmer suicides at an all-time high because they're stuck in a system that's killing them. We have corporate control over every decision farmers and consumers make. We have filthy lakes and rivers that cost taxpayers billions to clean, while corporate agribusiness extracts wealth from Iowa and leaves us with pollution and cancer. Farmers don't get the economic outcomes that they want, and the public doesn't get the clean water that they want. So why are we doing this? Why are we doing this monoculture of corn, soy, CAFOs, and biofuels that only benefit a few? Who is getting the outcomes that they want? Well, an insurance company, the Iowa Farm Bureau, and the big ungovernable multinational agribusiness corporations like Bayer, JBS, Syngenta, Corteva, Coke, ADM, Cargill, they always get the outcomes that they want. They always make money whether or not the farmers make money. And who do we have as Secretary of Agriculture? The answer is we don't have one. We have a Secretary of Agribusiness, Mike Naig, who came to the job after working as a lobbyist for Monsanto. Monsanto Mike delivers outcomes big agribusiness wants, and in appreciation, they pay for his political campaigns. There's an old saying in the water quality biz that goes something like this: wouldn't it be great if we all lived upstream? Well, Mike Naig and his family farm and raise hogs in Palo Alto County in far northwest Iowa, which drains to the Raccoon and Des Moines rivers that supply drinking water to Des Moines. Do you ever hear Monsanto Mike talk about the nitrate levels in the water from his tiles that drain to the Raccoon and Des Moines? I never do. We hear Naig and others in agriculture claim we all want clean water. Idle talk when year after year and generation after generation we're told by agriculture to just give us more time. No, they have failed, right? They have failed. We're not in a water quality crisis. We're in a state of failure. Our government and the ag titan puppeteers pulling the strings have failed to give us the water quality we deserve. They only care about water quality in the abstract, and only insofar as dirty water makes them and the industry look bad. Year after year, we see Iowa government allow the livestock industry to stampede across the state, leaving us with a stench of a mountain range of manure. Iowa livestock excrete the fecal waste of 168 million people, and that waste is spread untreated across our state. An underfunded and feckless DNR captured by ag interests has no capacity to enforce the flimsy and outdated regulations that we do have. Year after year, we see both political parties double down on ethanol made from corn. 13,000 square miles of Iowa, 1/4 of our state, is used to grow corn for ethanol. The industry whiners are now pleading for year-round E15, and they want to rend Iowa with a boondoggle pipeline. Nary a word from any of them about the water quality and human health consequences that result. We've given gas stations in Iowa $70 million to accommodate ethanol. Meanwhile, Iowa commits less than $2 million per year to sourcing local foods for schools and others. We could supply a free school lunch served with Iowa-grown fruits, vegetables, and meat to every student in every Iowa school for less than the cost of vouchers. What is the path forward? I'll tell you what it's not. Continuing to squander taxpayer dollars on Band-Aid and diaper conservation that only serve to mislead the public into thinking there is progress. The establishment and government and the universities cling to their nutrient reduction strategy security blanket because they're devoid of ideas and terrified of offending their benefactors. We need policy and programs that inspire farmers to transition to more sustainable and less polluting systems. These include a diverse assemblage of crops that may include corn and soy, but integrated with oats and other small grains, forage crops for cattle like clovers and alfalfa, vegetables and orchard fruits that can be eaten by Iowa school children, and animals raised in pastoral settings rather than confinements, which threaten us and the animals with contagious disease. Farmers and the public deserve a government that will help with these transitions and help create markets and infrastructure so producers can be prosperous. What about farmers that choose to remain in the fast lane of corn, soy, and CAFOs? Well, we need to regulate that choice. Since we indemnify that system with our tax dollars, we have a say on how that system should be operated. We need to regulate it. Finally, I'll tell you, 1 million people in Iowa are currently drinking water at or above a level that is associated with birth defects, colorectal, thyroid, bladder, ovarian, kidney, prostate cancer, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And this is not new information. We've known this for more than 25 years. The time to act is now. So vote no to cancer, vote yes to a more livable Iowa, and consider my candidacy for Secretary of Agriculture.
Thank you, Chris. And now we'll hear from Nate Willems for Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Nate Willems. I live in Mount Vernon. My wife, Maggie, is a high school social studies teacher and volleyball coach. And as of tomorrow, we will have 3 teenage daughters that we're raising. I am a labor lawyer in Cedar Rapids, and I'm running for Attorney General to defeat Brenna Bird. Years ago, I had the great opportunity to serve in the Iowa House of Representatives with Beth and Lisa Heddens, and I worked a lot on labor issues. I passed into law legislation which penalizes insurance companies who deny workers' compensation claims without good reason. I also worked a lot on education issues. I fought against those efforts to get rid of 4-year-old preschool, or to blame and shame public school teachers, or those early efforts at vouchers. Every day that I had the opportunity to go work in the Capitol building, I went to work for good paying jobs with dignity, a good education, and health care for all Iowans. As a lawyer in private practice in Lynn County, every day I go to work for good paying jobs with dignity and health care for all Iowans. I represent unions in Iowa. I represent injured workers. And I represent workers who've had wages stolen out of their paychecks. I've represented workers who've been nickeled and dimed 50 different ways. Over the last 18 years, I've represented tens of thousands of Iowa workers and recovered tens of millions of dollars in wages and benefits for them. But then I decided to run for Attorney General, and I needed to do a little bit more research. So, you know, some people think it's funny when they learn that lawyers actually have ethical rules they must follow. They're called the Iowa Rules of Professional Conduct, and prosecutors have special rules. The Iowa Rules of Professional Conduct say that a prosecutor must act as a minister of justice. A minister of justice. Does anybody think Brenna Bird is acting as a minister of justice? I mean, was she behaving as a minister of justice when she put a hold on reimbursement for emergency contraceptives for rape victims? Was she acting as a minister of justice when she sued to try to strip away protections for people with disabilities in the Rehabilitation Act? Or sued to prevent safe staffing standards from going into effect in nursing homes and long-term care facilities? Or just recently, just a couple weeks ago, was she acting as a minister of justice when, on behalf of all of us, the state of Iowa, she filed a brief in federal court in Minnesota asking a judge to allow ICE to use whatever tactics they want on the streets of Minneapolis? You know, when an injured worker comes into my office for the first time, they are typically bringing to me their biggest problem in the world. And do you know what they're asking for? Because they're not asking for money. They're asking me to go find justice for them. And that's what I've tried to do for these last 18 years. Now, the Attorney General's office is the biggest law firm in the state of Iowa, and it's the only one that's supposed to represent regular Iowans. The job of the Attorney General is to seek justice for Iowa workers, consumers, senior citizens, and anybody who just happens to be an Iowan. And that's what I'm going to do next year. So I wanted to give you a little update on the campaign, how things are going. We had a great 2025. We raised $725,000 last year, which, if you can follow me for a second, it's the most that any non-incumbent in a statewide down-ballot race has raised the year before an election in Iowa history. So we're very happy with that. Brenna Bird, continues to be rather unpopular. I mean, we've seen polling data that consistently shows her favorable, unfavorables to be, underwater at double digits. And then just last week, we were out to visit the Democratic Attorney General's Association conference, and our race is now a Tier 1 race. Folks, 2026, this year, is our great opportunity, is our essential opportunity to start the process of retaking the state and winning the Attorney General's office back as part of the process of retaking the state of Iowa. We're going to go to work for the next 8 or 9 months, and with your help, we're going to win in November. Thank you very much.
Oh, I think Ted Rasmussen wants to talk with us. It's probably something to do with money since he's the treasurer.
Oh, well, Susie walks up here. Everybody get your wallets, your checkbooks out. We don't have a card reader, so we do need cash or checks. But Susie is going to talk for a second while we do the hat pass. And I want to do a couple of quick announcements while Susie makes her way up here. On March 7th, our friends at the League of Women Voters are hosting a legislative forum at 8:45 in the Colo Community Building. That's right on Main Street in Colo. And another thing, it wouldn't be a Democratic gathering if we didn't forget to recognize someone. So I want to do a quick shout out to our Iowa Democrats 4th District Chair, C.J. Peterson. So thank you for coming, C.J.
Hi, I'm Susie Petra, retired educator. I'm speaking today for myself, Bruce Anton, Judy Lemish, Public School Strong, as you can see, and the Iowa CCI. For the 16th time in 17 years, the Iowa Republican-led legislature has failed to fully fund Iowa's public schools. They just passed an outrageously low 2% funding increase again, while inflation remains well above that level. However, at the same time, lawmakers are giving unregulated private schools, mainly religious, vouchers. Vouchers more than 3 times the share of new public money investment compared to Iowa's public schools. Public school vouchers are projected to siphon off nearly $1 billion of Iowa's public school dollars in just the limited 4 years that it's been enacted. $1 billion, with no accountability. And they have failed to put a cap on household incomes of the wealthy, who are now getting vouchers. Vouchers so Iowa's rich can get your taxpayer money to subsidize their children in private religious schools. Vouchers are welfare for the wealthy. Our public schools need our collective voices now, and to let legislators on the education committees in both the Senate and the House hear from us that this is unacceptable. By the way, a reminder that every member on the House is up for re-election. We are asking Public Schools Strong and Iowa CCI that you help, that we need your voice. We have put together handouts which we'll pass out at the door as you leave. These have emails to both the House and the Senate members on the key education committees, along with some information with which to arm yourself. So we're urging you to email this week. They need to hear from us, collective us. There is power in numbers. Don't you ever forget that. And we're not going to let them forget it either. So public education seriously needs your voice. We'll see you by the door. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Susie. If you have not had a chance to give any money to Ross or Paul, or I think Beth had a bucket, wave your hands. All right, one quick thing. Who's here for the very first time at the Story County Soup and More event? Applause. Thank you for coming out. Who has been to the Story County Soup Supper every year except for that year it snowed for like the last 25 years? Go ahead and cheer. This is a great turnout. We have a very, very good year for Democrats coming up. What we always need to do is support those Democrats up and down the ticket. That means volunteer to walk in those parades, volunteer to make phone calls, volunteer to knock doors, and definitely volunteer to give them a little money and financial support. It goes a long way to helping flip that state house. I know Ross and Beth and Herman would love to have some more friends from Story County down there.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for giving so generously today. We have 4 more candidates to hear from. Next is Wade Dooley for Secretary of Agriculture.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was hoping to have the sling off this week, but that didn't happen. So it's a little more awkward to get in the crowd and everything, but that's all right. Yeah, my name is Wade Dooley, and I'm a 6th-generation farmer from Marshall County, running for Secretary of Agriculture. I want a little crowd participation here. Raise your hand if you identify as a farmer. All right, awesome. So in the state of Iowa, there's not very many farmers in total, right? About the mix that's in this crowd right now, but we have an outsized impact on politics. Politicians love to talk about what farmers want, what farmers need, and then they make the folks that are listening believe that that's true. That's not always the case, right? So as a farmer, I can tell you how I feel, but I can't tell you how the other farmers in this room feel, right? Another question is, how many people in here have planted a tree in the last 20 years? Raise your hand. Now that right there is what I was hoping to see. So, planting a tree, does that mean you plant a tree expecting that there not to be a tomorrow? No. You plant a tree because you believe in the future. You have hope that the weather is going to be nice and that tree is going to have plenty of time to grow and flourish. The trees we plant today can take generations to mature. They take a lot of hope. They take a lot of belief. They take a lot of optimism. And over the decades that I've been farming in Iowa, there's been some of that lacking, right? There's not been a lot of hope in certain areas. Right now, it's really tough if you're a row cropper because when you look at the numbers, they don't look great. Why are they not great? Well, there's a lot of factors, but let's go with trade being the top one, or the lack thereof. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can grow more than just corn and soybeans in this state. We all know what the problems are. Thankfully, everybody who's spoken today ahead of me has pretty much laid out the entire list of the things we need to change in the next handful of years. So I'm not going to go back and reiterate everything they've already said. So I'm going to talk instead about hope for the future. Because that's something that I think Democrats, of all the groups in Iowa, the Democratic Party has the most hope. We are the most optimistic group of people that I've ever known. My family's been Democrats for generations. My grandfather, John Knutson, ran against Charles Grassley back in the, late 60s, early 70s? We're an optimistic bunch of folks. Sometimes we're not the most realistic, but we still try. This year, I've never seen more optimism in my life. It's gonna be an awesome year for Democrats. It's going to be an awesome year for Iowans. because we actually have a chance to really make changes. We're going to plant trees this year. We're going to plant trees of hope. We're going to plant trees of opportunity. And we're going to plant trees of potential. Because going forward, we've got a lot of work to do, and not all of it can be done in a day. But it can be done with all of us working together, trying hard as a community, as neighbors, as Iowans. We can make big things happen. What do we need to change around here? Well, for one, I think we need an awful lot more effort put towards food for Iowans. Iowa farmers feeding Iowa families. How do we do that? Well, we don't just tell farmers, go plant apple trees and expect profits. That's not how that works. We've got to build infrastructure. Infrastructure takes time. We need small and medium scale processing facilities spread out in every county all across the state. Iowa used to have a production processing infrastructure. Back in the day, there were creameries, canneries, freeze plants, all kinds of different ways of processing our raw agricultural products into things we can use and are shelf stable. We could clothe Iowans in Iowa-grown fabrics. We could build homes from Iowa-grown timbers. We can do a lot. We have the most productive soils in the world. We have the most creative and innovative people in the world. We created the computer, for crying out loud. Come on, we can do amazing things if we work together. We developed industries from scratch. The ethanol industry has a lot of problems, I think we can all agree, but it didn't exist when I started farming. I remember what it was like. There wasn't any hope in agriculture when I started farming. The ethanol industry was built out of the will and strength, and yes, money, of Iowans. We built an industry from nothing. We can do it again, but we can do it way better than that. And we can do it across the state. We can make many industries. Instead of focusing on one problem and beating it into the ground, we can take a shotgun approach and go after everything all at once. Because after all, we're Iowans, and we're actually really good at doing a lot of things at the same time. We can multitask. So I feel like the number one thing I want to leave you with is we have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of hope, and we have a lot of potential, and we can actually make things happen as a community, as neighbors, as Iowans, as Democrats. We can go forward and we can change how Iowa is. I'm Wade Dooley. I'm running for Secretary of Agriculture. Check out my website, wadedooley.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Wade. Now we have Taylor Wettich for State Auditor.
Hey everyone, how's it going today? A lot of great people here. So my name is Taylor Wettich, for those of you that I have not met. I'm a 7th generation Iowan. I'm born and raised and live in Muscatine, and I am the Democrat running to be your next state auditor. Growing up here in Iowa, I learned to listen to folks from all walks of life as a Hy-Vee checkout boy. Learned to work hard from great public school teachers. Let's hear it for public school teachers. And learn to do the right thing, especially when it's hard, for my faith and as an Eagle Scout. And my parents taught me that there was no more important responsibility than that of looking out for folks in our community. I saw that commitment in my grandfather and his efforts to support his rural community while he maintained our family's century farm. And I also heard stories about that and hearing about my great-grandpa Pete Wettich and his work to keep farm families afloat as a Farm Security Administration supervisor. And so it was that upbringing that inspired me to pursue a career as an attorney, hoping to serve my country and to serve my community. And as a trade and national security lawyer, I spent my career negotiating with major corporations and the federal government on some of the most critical legal issues facing our country. But after Trump was reelected last year, he decided to go after a bunch of firms that were challenging his administration. And unfortunately, my firm was one of those firms. And even more unfortunately, folks at my firm decided to cut a deal to do $125 million worth of legal work in support of his administration. Boo is right. Boo is right. But I didn't cut that deal. I resigned in protest. As an Iowan, I was raised that when you see something wrong, you don't look the other way, you don't close your eyes, you stand up, you step up, and you do something about it. Am I right? And there's a lot going wrong here in our state. We're last in the country for economic growth. We're 44th for doctors per capita. And public education, our crown jewel, has gone from being at the very top when I was growing up and benefiting from it to somewhere in the bottom half. Folks are working harder than ever. They're paying more for everything, and they're still falling further and further behind. And our political leaders, who are supposed to provide for us, provide support for us, are taking a paycheck from our taxes and not delivering. At a time like this, the last thing folks should have to worry about is whether their hard-earned taxpayer dollars are being wasted, abused, or fraudulently taken by corrupt politicians. And that is why the Office of State Auditor exists. You guys know a fellow by the name of Rob Sand? Yeah. Well, Rob Sand, as state auditor, has been doing the job as it's supposed to be done. He's been going after waste, fraud, and abuse. He's saved folks millions of dollars, and he hasn't discriminated in terms of whether he goes after Democrats or Republicans. He does the job how it's supposed to be done. But Governor Kim Reynolds and Lieutenant Governor Chris Knoyer, rather than making things better for us, are hell-bent on making sure that they take the powers away from this office, take away its independence, and take away its authority. And now, to make things worse, they're trying to install Lieutenant Governor Chris Knoyer in the office of the state auditor. So instead of having a watchdog, an independent watchdog, we get a lapdog for corrupt politicians. Boo. Boo is right. So, you folks know what how many statewide offices that we hold today? One. And what is that statewide office? The office of the state auditor. This position in this race has never been more important than today. Because with Rob Sand now leaving this office to run for governor, they're going to try to make sure that they muzzle the watchdog and that we lose our last line of defense against corruption in our state. But it's not just that. They're going to try to do more than that. They're going to try to turn this office into a attack dog to go after a lot of folks that are doing a lot of good for this state and stop us from undoing the damage that's been done over the past 15, 20 years. And that should scare the hell out of everyone in this room and everyone in this state, regardless of party. So that's why when folks came to me and said, Taylor, we think you should run for state auditor, I stepped up to the plate. Thank you. I'm excited to work with you all to use my background and my experience in complex legal and financial issues and my experience and commitment to standing up to folks that are trying to corrupt our system to make sure that we keep having an independent watchdog in that office. And so as your state auditor, I pledge that I will follow the money, stand up to waste, fraud, and abuse, and make sure we stop corruption in our government. As your state auditor, I will make sure that we make it easier for folks to see where their money is going because they deserve, when they pay hard-earned tax dollars into the state, they deserve to know how that money is being spent. As your state auditor, I will stand up to corruption and folks, politicians that try to take away the powers of this office, no matter who's in power, Democrat or Republican. And as your state auditor, I will make sure that I work with anyone, Democrat, Independent, or Republican, who believes in doing things the right way and that accountability matters. And so where does that leave us today? Well, we jumped in this race just 5 weeks ago, which is probably why most of you don't know who I am yet. But thank you for letting me speak. We have had such a great response since we jumped in this race. Folks all across the state have been really excited. We've had the support of great folks who I respect, like Tom Harkin, Christy Vilsack, Sally Peterson. But what has given me the most courage in fighting this fight, making sure that we're going to go everywhere and earn every vote, is so many folks across the state that we've met who are standing up right now, who are volunteering, who are door knocking, who are going out to make sure that we keep this seat and that we win across the board in November. So thank you so much for all you're doing. I hope you will sign up to volunteer for us. I hope you'll take a sign home. We got some signs back there. Hope you will follow us on social media. Weddick for Iowa. I have the Buttigieg problem. It's WETTACH. And if you can, please consider chipping in everything you can to help us out. When you're running for state office, right, and this applies to all the folks that are running for state office, you have to rely on folks in Iowa. You know, folks running for Senate and for Congress, they might be able to depend upon folks in 49 other states, but these offices are Iowa offices. So we're gonna need Iowa support and Iowa money and everything that Iowans can do to get us over the finish line. Thank you all so much. Excited to work with you all, and make sure we have an independent watchdog as state auditor. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have John Norwood for State Treasurer.
Thank you, Linda. I'm John Norwood. It's great to be with you all today. I think the first thing, if you don't mind, I want to take a quick social media break here. Take a picture. Everybody do something crazy. All right, hopefully it's a good one in there. I'm John Norwood. I'm running for state treasurer. And the state treasurer is our state bank. It's our state CFO. It's in charge of a lot of our pocketbook issues. There's billions of dollars that flow through the state treasurer's office. Who knows who the current state treasurer is? Does anybody? A few. Herman, you should know. Most people don't, though. Most people you ask out on the trail, do you know who the treasurer is? And the answer is no. And probably don't know what the treasurer's office does. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of the priorities, the pocketbook issues that are important to Iowans and to Democrats, because we're going to win this election on economics, I believe. A little bit about me. I grew up in the Boston area, and I spent my first 30 years there. I picked up an MBA and a Master's of Resources degree from Yale University. And then I found my way out to the West Coast, to Silicon Valley, and spent 10 years out in California. These are two of the great innovation centers of the country. And then I had the opportunity to come to Iowa in 2002, and I've been here ever since. I've raised 2 children who've gone through public schools. Thank you very much, public school teachers. Based in West Des Moines, they're Valley High School graduates, and so that's part of who I am. You know, I own a small business company called TBL Ventures. TBL stands for the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. And that's what we need to do more of it in this state, is we need to have businesses that create triple bottom line results. We're talking a little bit about this right now with water quality and our economy and the lack of diversification. But we want to have companies that are certainly profitable and then also have an impact on their communities and the environment. I've had an opportunity to work with a Goldman Sachs sponsored program called 10,000 Small Businesses. It's a nationwide program, 16,000 businesses nationwide. Here in Iowa, we started the program in 2019. 400 businesses have been through the program so far. I've worked with 80 of those personally. And the top line revenue for those 400 is almost $500 million, 4,700 people. So don't forget that small business is the engine of our Iowa economy. If we want to get out of the ditch, our economy out of the ditch, we've got to work on supporting small businesses. Why that matters is because I get the opportunity to work all over Iowa. I spend a lot of my time with these business owners asking lots of questions. And as a politician, what I often see is politicians who don't listen. They speak, but they don't listen. Listen's incredibly important. The second thing we're missing is in a majority of our politicians, particularly in the leadership party, is vision. Where do we want to go? And the agricultural candidates tonight spoke about the fact that we have to diversify, or we should be diversifying our economy. That's really important, missing infrastructure. So I'm going to bring to the treasurer's office the same financial expertise I work with my businesses every day to this office. It's really important. Why am I running? Well, it's a calling. I think for certain people, you just have it in your blood. Some of you may recall that I ran for state office in 2022, so I know what it means to be out on the campaign trail, 35,000 miles, 99 counties, and 22, and I'm going to continue that. We need a common sense voice, though, with our treasurer. It's really important. This is the state's CFO, and the treasurer should be, I think, the honest broker between the legislature and the governor when it comes to taxing and spending decisions. We're in a situation with a structural deficit of $1 billion, over $1 billion. And we've got about 300 moving towards $400 million going for ESAs. Yeah, that's where some of our money is. It's creating the structural deficit is going to these schools. Another thing we have to keep in mind is the fact that Iowa's population is not growing very fast. And so we're fighting over those students. Now we've created a public and a private school systems that are fighting for students. That's not good for Iowa. The priorities of this office as I see them: protecting the Iowans' pocketbooks. You might know about the Great Treasure Hunt, reclaiming unclaimed property. The Iowans like that program. 529. Excuse me?
It's an idea he stole from Mike Fitzgerald.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Mike was a very innovative person. 4 years in that office. I met with Mike yesterday, actually, because I'm learning from Mike. 529 plans, critically important to Iowans in educating their children. That's important. IPERS. Who cares about IPERS here? Anybody care about IPERS? IPERS is 1 in 8 Iowans. IPERS is $2.5 billion to our economy, local economies each year. IPERS is 400,000 members. IPERS is a third of those members are in retirement, 2/3 are working. We have a Doge report that says maybe we ought to start pulling apart IPERS. I mean, that doesn't make sense. IPERS is foundational to this economy, foundational to recruiting and retaining people. And Susie, I see Susie shaking her head there, and yeah, you hit that one well, Susie. What else? I think if I'm elected treasurer, and I expect to be, I hope to be, you will know who I am. Iowans will know who the treasurer is, because the treasurer plays as important role as the auditor plays looking back on how the money was spent. The treasurer should be looking forward and helping Iowans understand how that money is being spent. I don't want to lose the AAA bond rating that we have in this country, in this state. We have a AAA bond rating. If we run into Wall Street, start wondering about our $1 billion structural deficit, we could lose that AAA bond rating. That will cost us a lot of money. So thank you very much for supporting the campaign here. I hope you will reach out with questions and thoughts. And yes, we need money, and yes, we need volunteer support, all of the above. And the website is Norwood, 4Iowa.com. And I really appreciate your taking time to listen to me today. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rob Sand for governor.
Hello, Story County Democrats. Good to see ya. I'm trying to think of when the first one I was at was for one of these. It would have been 2017 probably, maybe 2018. Glad you're still doing it. Glad to see so many of you here. I was almost going to say this morning, but time moves quickly. This afternoon. I apologize, I'm not with you for too long today. I've been doing call time this morning, and I'm solo parenting for a week here while my wife's on a trip, so the boys and I are going to hit Seven Oaks this afternoon. And don't be offended, they're 11 and 9. They didn't want to hang out with you. They're waiting in the truck. One is reading and one fell asleep on the drive from Des Moines to Ames. I wish I could do that. That would be great. I'm fascinated with where we are in the campaign for governor. Fascinated. Because I have been saying since May that the people in Des Moines are interested in serving insiders and special interest groups. I have been saying since May that the people in Des Moines, state government insiders, to be clear, are focused on serving themselves and doing what they want to do. It doesn't matter what Iowans want. And here we are, they're literally advancing bills to gut the power of the next governor. We're halfway to election day and they're busy proving me right. It's unbelievable. They want to run a bill so that the next governor, when they appoint people to positions, the appointed position only lasts for 4 years, not for 6. They want to pass a bill changing the state's emergency powers for the governor. Here's the most egregious one. They want to pass a bill so that next year, when there's a new governor, they don't have to pass a budget with the new governor that the people of the state of Iowa elected. No, they just want to have a bill that they want to pass now that would let them just continue to operate at this year's budget, passed by these people. Unbelievable. Booing is right. Donating, volunteering, and voting is better. Some people say don't boo, vote, and I'm not going to say they're wrong, but I think today here, booing is the right answer. I mean, let's think about this for a second, right? And I got to say, I'm a little bit embarrassed for Iowa's press corps in falling for the claim that this is a bill that's about government shutdowns. If you've seen that headline, that's the bill I'm talking about. Oh, no, this is just about government shutdowns, you see. I'm sorry. Has Iowa ever had a government shutdown? No. Also, I'm sorry, haven't government shutdowns been happening in Washington for decades? But they want Iowans in the press corps to think, you know, we just decided that in 2026 we decide to pass this bill that has to do with things that have been happening in Washington for decades and has never happened here in Iowa. Hogwash. I want to say something stronger to that, but I'm not going to. Ridiculous. They're literally going to pass a bill that effectively says, you know, we know you all voted, and we know you put in new leadership. We know you put in a guy who said, hey, we should fairly fund public schools. We know you put in a guy who said, hey, we're thinking that maybe we shouldn't have a school vouchers program that has no accountability in it. We know you voted for a guy who said, hey, maybe we shouldn't double the pay of Odyssey, the private company that runs that school vouchers program. We know you did all those things, but we just don't care because we want to look out for special interests and insiders. I've had enough. I don't need to say anything else. This race, this year for the state of Iowa, the stakes cannot be overstated. This is one of the most important elections in the state of Iowa in my lifetime. I get sick of it when people say that. I've shied away from saying it. But again, I've been running since May saying the same stuff, and they've decided to go out there and prove me right. We've got to get to work. I know there's a ton of people in this room who have donated. Thank you. You may now donate again. I know there's a ton of people in this room who are volunteers. Thank you for that. The single best way to change a person's mind in Story County, same way anywhere else, face-to-face conversation. I know there's a ton of you too that you see our Facebook posts and you share them and you like them. Thank you for that. We're going to be working hard. I hope I get to spend most of the afternoon, I'd call it skiing, but you know, just going up and down the hill a lot. That's the hope. I know I'll be hitting the phones tomorrow. I'll probably be hitting them again today. We got a lot of work to do. We got to do it. The countdown starts now. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening.
Okay. We have some great candidates. We just heard some great speeches. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I do have a couple things that I'm supposed to announce. Maddie, do we have a winner of the silent auction?
Rose Rollenhagen.
Rose? Okay, super. I want to remind everybody that there's petitions, and on your way out, if you haven't signed a petition or petitions and you want to, please do that. And lastly, I want to thank the candidates for state office who joined us today, and thank all the volunteers who made this event possible by planning it, bringing soup, desserts, drinks, setting up the rooms, working the registration table, making phone calls, and many other tasks, and getting a really interesting booth back there. So thank you, volunteers. Just a reminder that our party has a lot of opportunity here this year, but we can't be successful without the work and commitment of all of you. A lot of you gave money today. There's a lot of other things you can do. You know what they are. Help walk for candidates, make phone calls, do postcards, vote yourself, do all of that. And get out there and make your voice heard. There's no more important time than now to make your voice heard on the issues. You've heard lots of them. So, drive safely on the way home and stay well till we see each other again, which I hope is soon. Thank you.
That just flabbergasts me.